Hey, welcome in, people. Dave Celentano here. Happy New Year to everybody. All right, we got the beginning of 2024 here. And we're going to be working on double stops. I'm continuing my series on lead guitar techniques. Today and next week, we're going to be working on double stops. And I'll explain what those are in a little bit and play you some examples. Welcome in. Hey, Peter. Hi. Good day. Hey. Yep. Richard. Cool. Steve, David Carlton's here. All right, good. Checking in at 120 BPM. I love it, Dave. Good. So, hello, Craig. Yeah, good to see everyone here. Cool. And then some other folks too. So, what are double stops? It's essentially two notes played at the same time, and usually on neighboring strings that are right next door to each other. A lot of good examples in rock and blues that we can talk about in country. Today, though, we're going to be focusing on double stops that are on neighboring strings, like strings 1 and 2, or strings 2 and 3, 3 and 4. Cool. So think about that for a sec. Expand the text box underneath the YouTube video you're watching right now, and you'll see an area with the blue URL link that you can print out the curriculum, or you can open it up and look at it. Okay. It's pretty basic stuff. We got 5 examples I'm going to be going over today. So, all right, Craig's here. All right. Couple Craigs. All right. Second Chance Band from Connecticut. Happy New Year there, Marianne, and your rock and roll blues band. Jersey Red. All right. Cool. And Daniel's here. Dennis. All right. A lot of new names and faces here. Barry, or actually not new faces, but new names. Mike, okay. Chuck, all right. And Zane, good. It's going great. Okay, so let's go ahead and dig right into this thing here. So a double stop, a great example of it, if you're familiar with Chuck Berry's Johnny B. Good, that's double stops, that intro solo. Those first couple licks, double stops right here. And then double stops here. Okay, it gets kind of a nice sound. It sounds, it's very typical in kind of blues rock and country and just blues too. You get the idea there. So that's one example of double stops. Let's check out example 1 in my curriculum. If you're familiar with, to me, this little lick, it sounds like something Asian. Okay, it's pretty simple to play. It's all on the top 2 strings, frets 5, 3, 0, and then it's all downstrokes too. And double stops kind of work better and sound a little more grindy and aggressive when you do all downstrokes. Okay, not to say we can not alternate pick. Sometimes that will come in handy too, and sometimes we might even hybrid pick. But we'll talk about the hybrid pick possibilities next week when we look at the curriculum for that. But today, I think everything in our curriculum today, it's all downstrokes. Yeah, I'm looking ahead at it. All downstrokes there. So let me just keep an eye on the names coming in and questions. Cool. Michael, glad to have you here too. King 50. All right, Bill. Cool. Happy New Year to you guys, everybody out there. So feel free to ask me questions or comment in the chat there. That's the only way we can really communicate. And I did post at the top of the chat thread, I put 3 guitar tricks links to double stop lessons that are on the site. There's actually a ton of lessons on guitar tricks on double stops, but I only put 3 of them up there. I didn't want to clog up everything. But once you go in there, you kind of, if you search in the search bar in guitar tricks, double stops, you'll easily find them. And if you're a Guitar Tricks member, just make sure you're logged in and you can tap those links I put up top and direct access. If you're not a Guitar Tricks member, you might want to consider checking out them, guitartricks.com. Great, huge guitar lesson internet site. And we've got a ton of students. I think we're over 3 million students have used the site and gotten better on guitar from it. Okay, so let's go ahead and jump into this thing. That example one I've got, everybody, is all downstrokes. You're playing the 5th fret with your 3rd finger. And because we're doing notes on adjacent strings, you're going to need to play not on the tip of your finger like normally we do when we play single notes or chords, but you actually need to play on the fingerprint part of your fingers, okay? The side of them, sort of, the flat part, because you got to hold 2 strings down at the same time. Now, example 1 also is a good illustration of going between 16th notes and 8th notes and quarter notes. If you look at the very first 4 notes up here in the music staff, even if you don't know how to read music, you can see that those 4 first downstrokes are connected by 2 horizontal black beams. Those are called 16th notes. That means you're playing 4 notes per beat, 4 notes inside of that first beat. Then when it's only a single horizontal beam connecting every 2 sets of notes, those are 8th notes. Those are 2 per beat, okay? And then when it's just the pair of notes by themselves or a note by itself with the vertical stem coming down or up, but no horizontal beam or flag, those are quarter notes. That gets 1 beat by itself. So you're going from 4 notes on the first beat, so that's pretty quick. Then you're going to 2 notes on the second beat, 2 notes on the third beat. Okay, they're half the speed of the first beat. And then the last beat is a quarter note, which is half the speed of the 8th notes. Okay, so if you're good with math, you'll get this. And even if you're not, this will help your math skills because it's just fractions when you're dealing with 16th notes, 8th notes, and quarter notes. In fact, all the rhythms, whole notes, half notes, etc., 30 seconds, it's all fractions. You're just taking the whole pie and cutting it in halves and then cutting that in halves, etc. Okay, so we got all downstrokes on the first beat. It's going 1, 2, and up. Then on the second and third beats, we're going 2 and 3 and then on the 4th beat, we just hit it at the 3rd fret and let it ring. And I've got repeat signs at the front and end of example 1. Okay, it's a really short little lick. Okay, kind of reminds me of some of those old cartoons we used to see. I think a Bugs Bunny cartoon might have played that little lick when Bugs Bunny went through the earth and came up on the other side and in China, and then I believe you would hear that little lick in there. It's also, I forgot the band who did it, and I'm sure one of the viewers tonight will remind me of it, but it was a song called I Think I'm Turning Japanese. All right, I believe they started this the song with that lick, or the lick is somewhere in the tune. But I'm sure one of the viewers tonight will give me the name of the band. It's slipping my mind right now. But let me read some of the comments because I see some coming in. George says Jimi Hendrix. Yeah, Jimmy does double stops too, of course. Yeah, like when you think about Little Wing on a Strat, though, I'll play it on a Les Paul. That's a lot of double stops in there. A lot of double stops. Yeah, lots of double stops in Little Wing, for instance. That's George. Thanks for mentioning that. That good call on that. Let me see. David's question says, if you play the D and F sharp at the 7th fret, that sounds good too. Did I just change modes? Mixolydian maybe? Yeah, well, actually, we're going to look at that too. at the 7th fret. In fact, my example 5 tonight, Dave, and everyone else, we're going to get into playing double stops on the 1st, 2nd string and on the 2nd and 3rd string. Yeah, 1st and 2nd string, and then the 2nd and 3rd string. So we'll talk about that when we get there, Dave. Exactly. Yep. It's kind of Mixolydian-ish. Definitely. And then this one, I'm not going to pronounce that name, but he asked, or they ask, what's the difference of double stops and harmonize? Well, the double stops are, in essence, a harmony. Okay? And harmonies could be intervals of thirds. The good harmonies are intervals of thirds and sixths, major and minor thirds, major and minor sixths. What we're doing here on example 1, though, is this is an interval of a perfect fourth. It's good that you asked that question, brought that up, because the distance between the two notes, and this will help everyone too, get to know your notes on the fretboard, all right? Instead of just being someone that can play stuff, but you have no idea what you're playing or you don't understand it, reach into your guitar neck, reach into your mind, and get to know your notes on the fretboard. Okay, the 1st string is E. So at the 5th fret on the 1st string, what is that note? If you know it, cool. If you don't, you should endeavor to figure that out, all right? Just go up the music alphabet. E is open, F on the 1st fret, F sharp 2nd fret, G on the 3rd, G sharp, A is on the 4th fret. The 5th fret. Okay, then the 2nd string, 5th fret. What is that? Well, the 2nd string is B. So B, C, C sharp, D, D sharp, E. Okay, so the two notes we're playing on the very first pair of notes in example 1 are an E note on the 2nd string and an A note on the 1st string. So the distance between those two is called a perfect fourth. In other words, the E to the A is 4 letters apart, or it's 2.5 whole steps. Okay, so you could count from E and just count on your fingers using the letters of the music alphabet. You don't have to use sharps and flats for right now, in this example at least. But if you count up from E, you got E is 1, F is 2, G is 3, and then after G, we know in music, we go back to the A. A is the 4th note. So it's 4 letters apart, a perfect fourth interval. A good way of remembering what a perfect fourth interval sounds like is it's the first couple notes of Here Comes the Bride, right? That wedding song. We've all been to weddings or heard in the movie or TV show, the wedding, the marriage. Okay, those first couple notes, that's always a perfect fourth. No matter what key you play that in, the first 2 notes of Here Comes the Bride are perfect fourth interval. So that's a harmony right there. Usually our ear gravitates towards good sounding harmonies. There's minor second harmonies, but to most of us, that doesn't sound too good. That's when they're separated by a half step. Okay, we don't like those kind of harmonies. Major second intervals sound a little better, but they're still a little grindy. Then the minor thirds and major thirds are really juicy. We hear those a lot in, this is another good example of double stops, the beginning of Brown Eyed Girl. Okay, Brown Eyed Girl's intro is playing major and minor third intervals. Okay, we're not going to get into learning how to play that today, though, but that's what that's about. So the student or the viewer that asked that question, what's the difference between double stops and harmonize? Double stops are harmonies. So that's that. All right. Hopefully that gave you a little bit of an answer. George says harmonizing sounds better. Yeah, well, harmonizing is just getting the 2 notes to sound good together. You could even do it with 2 separate guitar players. A lot of times in double guitar bands like Judas Priest, for instance, or Iron Maiden, one guitar might play, and then the other guitar is playing the harmony to that. So you end up with this sound. Okay? You could play them on where each guitar player plays a separate line and the two lines are in harmony. That's always a neat thing to do. Okay, harmonies sound cool. We might do some lessons on this YouTube Wednesday night class on harmonies maybe in the future sometime. But let's kind of continue on with our plan here, everybody. All right, Dave's saying, by the way, my comment was related to example 2. Yeah, exactly, Dave. I'm going to hit that in 1 sec. I'm going to keep rolling here. We'll get into example 2 in 1 sec. Jersey Red saying, back when people weren't so sensitive. Yep. Jim saying Happy New Year. All right, Jim, Happy New Year to you too. Yep. Second Chance Band remembers that song that I played. Jim saying The Vapors. Turning Japanese. There you go. Thanks, Jim. Appreciate it. Yep. All right. And then Pete's chiming in with also that The Vapors. Oh, yeah. David Bowie's China Girl off the Let's Dance album. I believe Stevie Ray Vaughan is playing on that too. And that has a little bit of that, since the song, David Bowie's lyrics, the title of the song is called China Girl. It's, kind of cool to put that little lick in there at some point. Yep. Everyone's saying The Vapors. All right, cool. Steve in New Hampshire saying Rush's early album does it. Can't remember which though. Yes, exactly. Yep. Alex Lifeson did double stops quite a bit too. Barry's saying, could you also say you are playing the 5th if you count from the first string? Yeah, well, Barry, you're right. You could say you're playing a 5th, but really, truly, a 5th is 3.5 whole steps apart. Okay, so if I was playing the E note and then went up a 5th, would be the B. Okay, that's a power chord, and that sounds like the first couple notes of Star Wars. Let's see if I can play it in a higher position. Okay, but if you were to start with the A right here on the 2nd string, 10th fret, Barry. Yeah, Barry. And then put the E up a 5th, it would be that. Okay, that's also, you could think about power chords are double stops, but yep, we got that. So if you invert the 4th, you get the 5th. And if you invert the 5th, in other words, flip them backwards, you get the 4th. So good observation, Barry. Good observation. Okay, cool. Jeffrey, all right. I love your guitar and your looks like Easter Island, one of those statue figureheads that's on Easter Island. Cool. Yeah, Sultans of Swing uses double stops. Yep, Mark Knopfler does those quite a bit. And then Second Chance Band saying another example of double stops is the intro outro of Margaritaville. Oh yeah, yep, exactly, Margaritaville. Yep, Jimmy Buffett. It's a lot of examples out there, everybody, of double stops. So I'm just kind of throwing out a few here. I'm kind of focusing on those intervals of a 4th. Let's go on to example number 2. I'm going to kind of fly through this stuff. Example 2 is just playing double stops with your pentatonic scale, pattern 1 in the key of A. Okay, if you look at it, I'm playing the 8th frets on strings 1 and 2, 5th fret on strings 1 and 2. Then on the 2nd and 3rd string, I play the 8th fret, 2nd string, 7th fret, 3rd string, because we keep it within the frame of the scale. Okay, and then we play the 5th fret on strings 3 and 2, and then the 4th and 3rd string at the 7th fret, 4th and 3rd string at the 5th fret, and then string 5 and 4 at the 7th fret, and then that's same strings at the 5th fret and back to the 7th fret. So all together it goes. And then next to the text for example 2 up here, I wrote double stops in minor pentatonic scale, mostly 4ths, mostly intervals of a 4th. Okay, so all of these have the Here Come the Bride interval. Okay. And even on the 2nd and 3rd string, when you're in the 7th and 8th fret, That's also an interval of a perfect fourth. The reason why it's not in the same fret, though, is because of that tuning discrepancy. Okay, we all know how to tune our guitars. You tune, maybe think back to when you first started and you learn how to tune in the fifth fret. Well, it worked on all the strings except for the third to second string. You had to tune in the fourth fret. So because that pair of strings is off by a fret, it's actually tuned to a major third interval, not a perfect fourth. Okay. So because of that, if we're going to do a perfect fourth interval on strings 3 and 2, we got to play it on neighboring frets. So the lower string, the third, has to be a fret lower than the higher string. Okay, so what interval would this be if we're at the fifth fret on strings 3 and 2? It's not a perfect fourth. It's not the Here Comes the Bride interval. See, it doesn't sound like Here Comes the Bride. Here Comes the Bride would go. Okay. That interval is a, does any of the viewers know what that interval would be between the third and second string and the fifth fret? Let me have you think about that. Thank you, Tony from Brazil. Coolness, cool. I'll bet Dave Carlton, who's paying attention here. What is that interval, Dave? If we're playing, like you said, you were playing the seventh fret on strings 3 and 2. Yeah, that actually sounds cool. The second string, seventh fret's not in pentatonic scale, but it still kind of sounds good in the key we're in. It's also 7 on strings 3 and 2 is not a perfect fourth interval. It's something else. All right, Second Chance Band beat you to it, Dave. You're right, Second Chance Band. It's a third. All right, Dave got it. He said, yeah, third. I'm slow. Yeah, it's a major third interval, people. So if we go back to the fifth fret, second and third string, okay. Did I forget to mention that we're also doing a little theory here tonight too? I always try to work a little theory in with the lessons, no matter what we're doing, okay? So we want to go beyond just being a parrot that can learn stuff off of YouTube, but you have no idea what you're playing. There's tons of good players out there, but what I'm disappointed in is that some of those players, not all of them, but some of them play real good, but they have no idea what they're playing. They're really good at copying someone else's work. Okay. But if you dig in, roll your sleeves up and try to figure this stuff out, this will help you, enable you to understand what your favorite artists are playing, what your favorite bands and guitar players are playing. You'll understand it better. And if you're at all interested in improvising or writing your own songs, writing your own music, this would help you. It can only help you. All right. It will not hurt you at all. Okay. So that interval from the third to the second string in the fifth fret, well, the third string is a C note. Second string is an E note. So how many letters is it from C to E if we're going from C up to E? C, D, E. That's 3. In other words, it's a third, major third interval. If you thought about it in whole steps and half steps, it's 2 whole steps from a C. If you put them all on the same string, you can see that the distance between C and E is 2 whole steps. So all day long, an interval that is 2 whole steps apart, and a whole step is 2 frets. So 2 whole steps is 4 frets. Okay. All day long, that's a major third. And then the rest of the intervals in my little example 2 there, everybody, on strings 4 and 3, those are perfect fourths intervals. And on strings 5 and 4, okay, those are also perfect fourths. Okay, you could even go all the way down the scale. Then on the 5th and 6th string, you got to play those 2 notes with your ring and pinky. And maybe go back to the 3rd fret and then back to the 5th fret. Okay, just a little added bonus there. Okay, now how about getting into a little more of a bluesy type of thing with example 3? This is kind of like something Stevie Ray Vaughan and a lot of other blues players would do. They'll play the 8th fret first string, 7th fret second string, and they'll give those just a little bit. What do I got over that? A quarter step? Yeah, if you look at example 2, that bend indicator right above the arrowhead, it's got a 1/4 fraction up there. That means you're going to bend those notes about a quarter step, which is hardly anything. It's just a little bit. Okay. So a half, remember, I'm talking whole steps are 2 frets. So if you just deductive reasoning, a half step would be 1 fret. Okay. So a quarter step would be half of a fret. Okay. That's what we're going to do, is bend those 2 notes up to, not the notes 1 fret up. You want to be a little flat of it. You don't want to go that high. We don't want to go that high with it. You just want to go. And then we go back to the 5th fret. And then the fingers I would use, whenever I do this, when I'm soloing with the blues band, I always do it with the 2nd and 3rd finger. You could bend with your ring and pinky if you want. But I always tend to do the 2nd and 3rd because it's easier to bend with those 2 fingers than the pinky and 3rd. And it's not that much. Now, curiously here, I wonder what this interval is. All right. From that 7 on the 2nd string to 8 on the 1st string. Remember, we were talking about harmonies. Usually our ear gravitates towards good harmonies, but sometimes we want to have an ugly harmony. Like a minor 2nd sounds really ugly. In fact, what is this song? You know, the Twilight Zone theme. What I think is really cool about that melody, whoever wrote that took all the worst intervals and they worked them into that little lick. All right. So it's starting with a major 2nd interval to a minor 2nd, which sounds really bad, back to the major 2nd, and then to a same interval we're doing right here. Okay. All right, Steve said major 5th, then he goes minor 5th. Steve, yeah, it's actually the minor 5th. Technically, we call it a flat 5. It's the blues note. From the lower note to the higher note is a flat 5th interval. It's like if you play the A blues scale, the blues note. Oh, see, the flat 5 to the root is called a flat 5 interval. That's a kind of a cool interval if you like kind of tension, because it creates a lot of that. You know what, that Rush song? YYZ, that's a flat 5 interval right there. Okay, the Twilight Zone theme, it's a major 2nd to a minor 2nd to a major 2nd to a flat 5. Don't those intervals just really rub your ear kind of wrong? They sound very demented and kind of evil and haunting sounding. So the flat 5 interval that we're using here for our blues lick in example 3, okay, it creates tension. It wants to be resolved. Okay, and then you can see the chord I've got written over example 3 is an A7. So if you're doing a song in A, like that flat 5, 7, and 8, all right, that flat 5 interval, you bend it a little bit, you're creating tension, and the listener wants to hear resolve. That's what the double 5s are, the next pair of notes you're playing. Those resolve it. Can you kind of hear that? Listen. Okay. So my little lick in example 3, it comes in on the end of beat 1. So it goes 1. There we go. I'll play it again. 3, 4, 1. 2. One more time. 3, 4, 1, and 2, and 3, and 4, and 1. On that one, actually, I lied to everyone. I said we're doing all downstrokes. I've got, see the upstroke picks over the fives, the pair of fives. Okay. You could do all downstrokes too if you like. If I was doing it a little quicker, I would definitely alternate pick it. Okay. But that's a useful little tool and a cool little lick to kind of work into your, even if you're playing rock, like classic rock, that would sound kind of cool in the key of A. Okay, so anyway, let's think about that for a little bit. Let me catch up with the comments here. Second Chance Band saying the Twilight Zone, right on. Sci-Fi just had the annual, oh, of course, yeah, they always do like a marathon with, what's the narrator's name? I see his face, but he's like the perfect voice for narrating those kind of science fiction documentaries and that show. Okay, so Dave's saying example 3 fingering, 3rd and 4th fingers versus 2nd and 4th, first stop. Well, Dave, check it out. We don't have to read music to get this, but on the left side of the notes up here in the music staff, you see little numbers on the left side of some of those notes. Those are the fingers on your left hand that I would recommend. So what do I got there? Looks like I see a 3 and a 2. The 3 would be your ring finger on the 8, and the 2 would be your middle finger on the 7. And then you see next to the double 5s, that's a little more obvious, that would be the index finger. Okay. Rod Sterling. There you go. Thank you, Marianne, and the Second Chance Band. Cool. Appreciate it. All right. Dave's saying, yes, but why 3-2 versus 3-4? Dave, you can do either one. Yeah, it's fine. I prefer just to do fingers 2 and 3 because I got more control when I'm doing that bend. But I can easily do it with the ring and pinky too. Yeah, feel free to do either one, Dave. Fingers 3 and 4 or 2 and 3. I'm not sure if we have any other finger options besides those two, but those are one of those two options would be okay in my book. So there you go. There you go. Okay, so the first 3 examples were just kind of ideas to get everyone going on double stops. Example 4 and 5, we're going to get into following the chord a little more, because that's kind of what music's about. When you're writing a melody or soloing, they're not detached from what the band's playing and the chord progression that you're playing over. They're part of it. And that's a common mistake I see with some of my students I've worked with in the past, some of them even now. They can play the rhythm part and they know their scale's really good, but when they solo, they're not listening. They're playing over the rhythm, but they're not following the rhythm. They're just playing the scale and moving their fingers up and down the scale and playing licks, but they're not listening to what the chords are in that chord progression that they're playing over. So we really need to, this is another thing too, just try this will help you lift your playing up to the next level. Just try to get familiar with what the chords are you're playing over, whatever they are, and then what the notes are of those chords, because those chord tones, people, are almost always in the scale you're playing, all right? Those chord tones are the gold notes. If you follow those as the chords are going by, you can't help but sound good, all right? Like if you think about a Hotel California, all right? Right? Everyone's familiar with that. There's a lot of chords in that chord progression. It's pretty much all in B minor, or in fact, it's all in B minor. but we just aren't going to sit there and play B minor pentatonic over it or B natural minor or we got to follow the chords. Like over the B minor, I'm going to play the B minor scale, but I'm going to specifically pick out some of the notes, highlighting notes that are in the B minor chord. Well, you got to think about what notes are in the chord. There's a B, a D, and an F sharp. Okay. See, watch this little lick I do over that. When you hear me play this little solo, I've written this solo to follow those chords. All right, check this out. You can totally hear the chord changes underneath it. Here's the B minor, F sharp, A, E7, G, D, E minor, I, F sharp. Okay, you can hear the chord changes because I'm playing notes of the scale, but when I end on particular parts, when I sustain on notes, when I hang on a note, I'm making sure that note is in the chord. See, double stops, I play a lot of double stops in there. Those notes of the double stops I'm playing are built into the chords. Double stops. See, I wove the melody, the chorus into that. Anyway, you get the idea. So following the chord change, people, is really important. Something to think about. We can Guitar Tricks, is sponsoring our Wednesday night classes that I'm doing here every Wednesday. Check them out. If you're a member, we got instructors that you can take one-on-ones with to get deeper into this stuff. I'm one of the instructors. We got all kinds of video songs, lessons on the songs. We got lessons on styles like blues, country, rock, classical, jazz, and techniques to hand tapping, sweep picking, hybrid picking. We got videos on the site professionally done with tablature and music and the works on pretty much everything to become a great guitar player. All right. So check them out. If you're not already a Guitar Tricks member, reach out and check them out. I know they got different deals going on, and I know they've got a money back guarantee too. So you have nothing to lose by joining the site and checking it out. Elaine's here. Hey, no worries about being late. Glad you're here in the first place. Cool. Jump in, print out the curriculum, or open it up under the video there. The text box has the week 1 of 2 for double stops. Okay, so my whole long spiel right there was about following chords that you're playing over with the double stops. So let's look at example 4. Okay, this one double stops in the 50s style rock. It's kind of like Chuck Berry. Okay, look at the chord I have over that is an A7. And then pretty much it's going to be based around the A pentatonic scale with a little bit the blues note in there, a little mixolydian. Don't worry about all that jargon that I just mentioned right there. Just kind of learn the licks first, and then we can talk about how they fit over the A7. So the beginning of it, it kind of sounds like Johnny B. Good, but then it's not quite that. It's a pretty short little lick. One more time. just a little phrase that sounds good over that A7. You got your little pickup notes, which slides into the major third of the A7. Then the next note is the E, that's the fifth of it. Then 7 on the second string, that's the F sharp note, that's the 6th degree. Even though the 6 isn't in the chord, 6s always sound, the 6 degrees always sound really good over the chords. And then your double stop on the first, second string, 5th fret, that's your E and A. That's the 5th in the root of the A7 chord. Now, even though I'm doing sliding every 3 notes, it's not a triplet. It's not going 1 E and 2 E and 3 E and. If you look at the rhythm for that lick, it's kind of cool because it's 8th notes, which kind of feel like in 2s, 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and, but I'm sliding on every 3, the first of every 3 of those 8 notes. Like, we do 3 sets of that. So it's 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1. And 4 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1. And then the next part is your 8th fret, 3rd and 2nd string. That works in the blues scale, the flat 5 note in there. And we slide from the 8ths on the 2nd and 3rd to the same strings at the 7th fret. And then the 5th fret, same strings. So we talked about that. That's all a major 3rd interval on all those double stops. And then we do a pull off from 7 to 5 on both strings. See, that whole lick in the latter part of example 4 is got some interesting things going on. We're doing a slide with the 3rd finger. You got to play on the fingerprint of that, okay? So you got to keep your finger pressure down so you don't come off. See, if you slide and you release pressure a little bit, the note disappears. Got to keep your fingers squeezed, pressed to the fretboard. Then the 5s, and then the 7 pull off. You're doing the pull off from the 7th fret on the 3rd and 2nd string to the same 2 strings in the 5th fret. So you got to kind of play with the side of your 3rd finger, the fingerprint of it, all right? And then you pull it downwards and try to get it where it kind of rubs and flicks off. So the 2nd and 3rd string ring at the 5th fret. Kind of like that. And then on string 4, for the ending of the lick, we're on string 4, 7, pull off to 5. Now you can play on the tip of your fingers because we're not doing double stops. And then I end on the A, the 7th fret on string 4. Imagine you heard the rhythm guitar doing. Okay. Okay, that's just a power chord, adding the pinky to the 9th fret on string 5. Or you can just play it over like an A7 chord. That's kind of cool to give it a shuffle feel instead of 1 and 2 and 3 and 4, 1 and 2 and 3 and 4, 1 and 2 and 3. It's kind of cool too how you can take the same lick and give it a swing feel. All right, just something to chew on. It's food for thought, everyone. That's whenever I learn something, I always try to extrapolate what else I can get out of it. Like when I learn a lick, how many different ways can I play that lick? Can I change the feel of it? Instead of playing it with a swing feel, play it with a straight feel. Instead of playing it with a straight feel, play it with a swing feel. Sometimes I'll learn a lick like this. I might go... Maybe I'll learn that lick. All right, just check that out. How can I get more miles out of that? I might go up and play the harmony. Hold on. There we go. I'll go up and play the harmony. Maybe the harmony of that one. See that? All of a sudden, I got this nice long line just from squeezing all the juice out of that first lick. Okay, a lot of possibilities when you get an open mind about stuff and how to think outside the box instead of just learning what someone else played and copying it. Learn it. Nothing wrong with learning it. I mean, heck, I've learned a ton of stuff over the years, but I always try to make it my own. And to do that, I got to think outside the box. How else can I play it? Like try to twist it around. You know, you learn all those Eddie Van Halen licks, as awesome as he is, but I try to make them my own instead of doing, you know, always. Well, come up with a different sequence instead of doing that. Instead of doing, how can I change it? Come up with a more complicated sequence. Hi. So I took Edward's awesomeness and I tried to take it and then make it my own, do something different with it. All right. That's, I'm encouraging all my students too, the ones that are at that level. I have several students that I'm helping work on their albums, help them to write, how to write a solo for one of their songs in their album. When the students of mine are at that level, and I've got several of them, that's what I try to do is you got a great idea there. Now, how can we get more out of it? How can we milk it and squeeze more ideas out of that one good idea you got? So a lot of possibilities there. Okay, so let's wrap up with example 5. And I'm building up to something here, folks. You see how I'm mentioning about following the chords? Okay, so example 4 just kind of followed the A chord. And example 3 also kind of went kind of a simple idea, following the A. Or okay, example 5, check it out. It covers the bottom part of page 1, and then we've got the rest of it is on page 2. Take a look at it. It's a 12-bar blues, everybody, in the key of A. So I'm following 3 chords, an A7 for 4 bars. That's the bottom of page 1. Top of page 2, we go to the 4 chord in the key of A, the D7. We got 2 bars of that. And then the next 2 bars, we go back to A7 for 2 bars. Okay. And then the bottom 2 lines, we go up to E7, the 5 chord for a bar, back to D7, that's the 4 chord for a bar, back to A7, and then ends on the E. And then a repeat sign back to the top. So I kind of wrote, it's kind of a simple idea, but a double stop idea that follows the A7 chord. It takes 2 bars to unfold. Okay, check it out. It goes 2, 3, 4. Actually, I lied to you. It takes 4 bars. So each bar is unique. It doesn't really play the same thing as the previous bar. Okay, here we go again. 2, 3, 4. You know what? The second bar is the same as the first. Now that I look at it, hey Maverick, we're almost done. Okay, I gotta finish up the class first, and then we'll play. Okay, all right, back to the lessons here, everybody. 2, 3, 4. D. A, E, D, A, E7. Actually, I don't play the chord at the end. I go, and then it repeats. So you can kind of hear this change. Again. Or over the, like a Chuck Berry type of rhythm. 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4. So let's break down that lick and figure out what the heck's going on, because you can clearly hear it follows the chords. All right. That, to my ear, I would rather hear a guitar player play something like that than over that rhythm go. If all that's fine and dandy, but if it's not following the chords, it's kind of just sort of like showing off, but not really trying to be musical. That's not what music's about. All right. It's about trying to follow the chords, make something that sounds good. And then if you happen to have a lick or two that shows off, cool. But if you're just doing it and you're not following the chords, when I hear players on YouTube and when I go see bands play live and I hear that, it's like they're just missing the point. Okay. Let me see what we got here. Dave says Ferd. All right, Dave, not sure what that's about, but anyway. All right, so let's check out example 5, the first bar, because you can kind of hear it. I got an idea. It goes like this. Do it again. Then the next one doesn't have that little stop. Okay, so let's break it down and figure out how that and why that sounds good over the A. Dave says, my cat was on the keyboard. Sorry. No problem. Well, I'm sure if my dog could reach up, he would touch my keyboard too, but I try to keep him back from that. But check this out. First two notes, the fives, double stops, that's your E and A. That's the root and the fifth degree of the A chord. You can never sound bad if you're playing notes of the chord, people. Where it starts sounding not good is when you start playing notes that aren't in the chord and you don't resolve them correctly, okay? So we got the fives and then the double stop sevens on the second and third string. Those pair of notes are not in the chord at all. It's an F sharp and a D, but it's still in the the Mixolydian mode, the Mixolydian scale, or even the Dorian scale. Don't worry about if you know what I'm talking about, Mixolydian, Dorian, cool. If you don't sweat it right now, okay? Just know that the sevens are not in the chord, but that's okay. We don't have to have everything be in the chord. We just have to know how to resolve what we're playing. And usually it sounds good to start with chord tones, play something that meanders around, might have a few non-chord tone notes in there, but then when you resolve it, they're back to the chord tones again. So we got the root and the fifth. The sevens are not in the chord. And then we got the fifth fret on the second and third string. Okay, that's a C and an E. Well, in the A7 chord, there's no C note in the A7. That's why we hammer onto the 6, because C, 1 fret higher, is a C sharp. That's when you play your A7 chord, you can clearly see that middle finger is on the same note, the 6th fret, 3rd string. Okay, that's your C sharp. The C sharp is the major third of the A chord. Okay, the chord tone. Okay, so we play the C to the C sharp, and in the 2nd string, 5th fret, the E at the double stop 5s there. Okay, on the 2nd and 3rd string, the E note is the 5th degree of the A chord. That's in the chord. Okay, so you got of the 2 5s right there, the lower note's not in, but then we quickly go to the 6th. And you hear blues players do that a lot. Sometimes we'll even bend up to it, the C up to the C sharp. Okay, you could do it that way. But blues players do this all the time. They'll play the minor third, which is not in the chord, and then they'll hammer onto the major third. Or B.B. King. Or, okay, that whole minor third to major third is very cool. You go from a note that doesn't sound right. You know how that C sounds? It sounds like it's got to be resolved. But when I slide it up to the C sharp, you can hear the resolve, all right? And then the last note of the lick is 7 on string 4. Guess what that note is? That's your A note. That's the root. So there we go. We got a lick that's really, if you think about the A7 chord, as a little F chord shape on the 5th fret, that's playing a lot of notes in that lick are in that F chord shape. All right. So the first 2 bars are the same. Okay. Then the next 2 bars, bottom of page 1, it just plays the same lick again, but I don't stop on the 7. I go. Then I lie the 3rd finger down. I let it collapse from 7 on the 4th string. I just bend my knuckle down. So you kind of do that. See my 3rd finger? Let me change angles here a little bit. See what I do? You don't want to hop your finger. You just want to start on the 4th string and then let the finger collapse. Kind of straighten the knuckle out. See how my knuckle's a little bent for the 4th string 7? And then when I go to the 3rd and 2nd string, I just flatten it out. And I do that a couple times. So check out the bottom line. Okay. And then we're headed to the last 2 notes on page 1. Is the 10th fret, top 2 strings. Okay, we're not on the chord yet, but that's setting the listener up that in their ear for what's coming down the pipeline, what's coming next. You look at the top of page 2, it says D7. Any D7 you want, doesn't matter. Those 2 notes are the same relationship to D7 as the 5s were to the A7. Okay, it's the 5th and the root. And we're just going to do the exact same lick but up here at the 10th fret. And then it's going to outline the notes of the D7 chord. I just do that twice. And then we got back to the A7 chord. And the A7 chord, I don't stop. So the D7 chord has 2 times with the stop. 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 A7, 1, 2, 3 times with no stop. Okay, and then heading into the E7, we're just going to go up to the 12th fret. Okay, the relationship of the 12 frets and all the other notes we're playing here are the same relationship to the E7 as the ones where I totally analyzed with you a minute ago for the for the A7. So the E7, we're on the 3rd staff line down, just to keep everyone knowing where I'm at. We're going to play that, the bottom 2 lines. Okay, so we got that E7. And then quick stop on the 14th fret, jump back 2 frets for the 10th fret. That becomes the D. And then back to the 5th fret for A, and then I won't stop. I'll do 2 of these. And then the tail end, that last bar of the E with the E7 over it, I just walk down the pentatonic scale, and then I want to end on an E note so it sounds like the E7 chord. Okay, you don't have to play all the notes in the chord, or a lot of them. You could just play one of the notes, and it'll still sell the listener on that you're following the chords. And then back to the top. All right, people. Looks like we're about ready to wrap this up. So why don't you chew on that, study that a little bit, work on that, see if you can get some of those licks under your fingers, or just familiarize yourself with double stops. Next Wednesday, I jump in. We're going to be doing week 2 of 2, totally different curriculum, and we'll be working more on double stops. So join me next Wednesday, same bat time, same bat channel, and we'll have some more fun with the double stops. Really appreciate all the comments, everyone, the questions, the answers to some of my questions. Everyone did good. Hope you gained a little insight into this, and reach out to me if you have any questions on guitar tricks. You can email me there. And I also give lessons on the site. Feel free to reach out if you want to do a one-on-one with me on the internet. I've got a lot of students, and I love helping other players who desire to get good on guitar. That's what my job is to help others get better too. So everyone have a good night. We'll see you next Wednesday. Peace. Stay cool. Keep practicing. Keep those fingers flying, man. All right. Don't give up. Just keep at it. All right. See ya. Bye.